started now for our Davis-Bacon and Section 3 webinar. This webinar, like most of our webinars, is being recorded and then posted to the DMD YouTube channel afterwards. Please submit your questions via chat. Okay, just to start off, the Davis-Bacon Act of 1931 is a United States federal law that establishes the requirement for paying the local prevailing wages on public works projects for laborers and mechanics. And generally, this means union wages. It applies to contractors and subcontractors performing on federally funded or assisted contracts in excess of $2,000 for the construction, alteration, or repair, including painting and decorating of public buildings or public works. Davis-Bacon applicability has a lot of ins and outs. For NSP, CDBG, Section 108 loan guarantees, and economic development grants, Davis-Bacon requirements are applicable when funds are used in whole or in part to finance construction work. Applicability is triggered if funds pay for any direct cost of construction, for example, interest costs on a construction loan, and when one of the following thresholds is met. For residential, if there's residential properties of 8 or more units. Single home ownership units are usually not covered because each unit is viewed as a single residential property containing one unit. So a lot of the homeowner repair programs fall under the category of work on a single residential property. So Davis-Bacon is usually not triggered by homeowner repair. For non-residential projects, any construction work valued over $2,000 and financed with NSP, CDBG, Section 108 loan guarantees, and EDI grants requires prevailing wages. One more note regarding residential properties. Keep in mind that some homes that appear to be single-family homes on one piece of property might actually be part of a common ownership. For example, there might be 8 single-family rentals on 8 contiguous lots, or 3 apartment buildings located on one tract of land, each containing 5 units, and that would mean that that would exceed the minimum of 8 units. NSP, CDBG, Section 108 loan guarantees, and EDI grants can finance activities other than construction work that do not trigger Davis-Bacon requirements. Some of these activities include real property acquisition, purchase of equipment, architectural and engineering fees, development fees, non-construction services such as legal and accounting services, and other non-construction items such as furniture, business licenses, real estate taxes, and tenant allowances for such items. And as far as construction management is concerned, whether or not construction management triggers Davis-Bacon is a gray area. The rule of thumb is that Davis-Bacon applies to all costs that would normally be borne by the construction contractor. So in this example, the cost of hiring a clerk of the works that manages construction for the contractor would trigger Davis-Bacon. However, should the owner have a staff person or consultants oversee the construction, Davis-Bacon would not apply. Even if NSP, CDBG, Section 108 loan guarantees, and economic development grant funds finance only a portion of construction work, labor standards apply to the entire construction project. Financing is not limited to the act of paying for the construction work directly. Financing can mean, for example, using CDBG assistance to pay the interest charged or to reduce the interest rate on a construction loan, including certain collateral accounts. Generally, financing also means using CDBG funds to provide permanent financing, like taking out a loan following construction. For projects that use home funds, we again have to determine the number of home-assisted units in the project, then identify the contracts affecting them. For residential construction contracts which contain 12 or more home-assisted units are covered by prevailing wage requirements. So you can see that's the difference there. With CDBG, it's 8. With home, it's 12. So Davis-Bacon requirements are applicable when home funds are used for any project costs, including construction and non-construction costs, so long as the contract for construction contains 12 or more home-assisted units. For group homes, under certain conditions, a group home may be counted as a single unit for home assistance purposes, or a collection of single-room occupancy units. If the number of home-assisted single-room occupancy dwelling units covered by a contract for construction equals 12 or more, then Davis-Bacon labor standards do apply. Regarding homeownership, if a pre-construction agreement is made with the owner or developer of a housing project that home funds will be used to assist homebuyers with buying the housing, and the construction contract covers 12 or more home-assisted units, Davis-Bacon labor standards apply. Labor standards provisions governing home funds are much different than those governing CDBG. For home, Davis-Bacon requirements apply to contracts for construction, not to individual projects or work. Additionally, the labor standards provisions apply when the contract contains 12 or more home-assisted units. The term assisted is viewed as providing a much broader scope encompassing both construction and non-construction costs. Like we just went over, CDBG emphasizes only construction work directly financed with CDBG funds. Some other points to keep in mind when determining Davis-Bacon applicability with home-assisted units. A home project cannot be divided into multiple contracts just for the sake of avoiding Davis-Bacon. There may be other reasons for splitting a contract that results in multiple contracts with less than 11 home-assisted units each, but splitting a contract for the purpose of not triggering Davis-Bacon is not permitted. A construction contract with 12 or more home-assisted units is covered even if the contract involves more than one home project. One contract that contains 2 home projects, each containing 6 home-assisted units. All right, when you're first assessing a project to determine if Davis-Bacon applies to that project, do not assume that Davis-Bacon wages do not apply to your project. Generally, construction work valued at more than $2,000 will require prevailing wages. You'll want to review specific regulations governing the HUD program that is funding the project to see if there are any reasons why Davis-Bacon would not apply. And I have the link there for the Fair Labor Standards provisions. It's about 5 pages long. These standards get very specific, such as required pay frequency and regulations for record keeping. And these terms are also required to be in subsequent contracts for projects where Davis-Bacon applies. So it's a good idea to just go ahead and review them now. It's not a painful read. So just take a look at them at that site. And then you will complete and submit the Davis-Bacon applicability review form to our compliance monitor, Dina, for all projects for verification of applicability. And all project sponsors receiving federal grants are required to complete the applicability review form. And like we just went over, this is submitted to our compliance monitor, Dina, prior to the issuance of the contract. If it's determined that Davis-Bacon, that the project in question must conform to Davis-Bacon standards, then the next step is to submit the request for wage determination form. And we've got a little screenshot of what that form looks like here. And then also to submit bid specifications for Davis-Bacon contract language review. Our compliance monitor, Dina, will send the project sponsor a wage determination form after she receives and reviews the wage request form and the bid. And the wage determination form, you can see how it's broken down into each specific type of worker. And these vary county by county, so you'll have to make sure that it has the right county listed, and it has the rates and fringe benefits listed on here. So then you'll use these numbers to create a budget breakdown, which you will then subsequently submit that budget breakdown and project cost estimate. Review the wage decision to ensure that it contains all work classifications necessary to complete the construction project. If any are omitted, submit a complete list to the compliance monitor. Next step is to prepare bid specification documents for subcontractors to incorporate the HUD-4010 and the appropriate wage decision by name and as attachments. Submit a copy to the compliance monitor to review Davis-Bacon compliance with the rehab specialist. So HUD-4010 are those 5 pages of regulations that I was talking about that we have the link to a couple slides back. Number 7, you'll want to check with the Davis-Bacon compliance monitor. DINA for wage decision modifications 10 days prior to bid opening and contract award date. The documented advertised bid opening date will lock in the wage decision provided the contract is awarded and assigned within 90 days of the actual bid opening date. Projects using notice to proceed, RFQs or RFPs are locked in at the contract date or the start of construction date. Next, you want to ensure that the bid documents incorporate the HUD-4010, again, those 5 pages, the Fair Labor Standards provision, and the appropriate wage decision, and that those documents are physically attached. You'll also need to provide proof that the selected bidder is not debarred on sam.gov. And you'll submit this eligibility verification to Compliance Monitor DINA. Then award the prime contract for the project. If more than 90 days has occurred between the actual bid opening date and the actual signed contract, contact DINA, the compliance monitor, to ensure compliance. Labor standards provisions and the applicable wage decision are in all contracts. A signed copy of the construction contract should be submitted as well. Then submit the construction contract and a list of subcontractors. Ensure that each subcontractor completes and submits a contractor agreement and a wage fringe certification. Then schedule a pre-construction meeting with all of the following people: the project sponsor, contractors and subcontractors, contractor's office staff responsible for completing or signing payrolls, foremen, and superintendents. Next, you'll be submitting weekly original inked, signed, certified payrolls for each contractor on the job site and a weekly report of contractors on the job site. And lastly, you will submit a Davis-Bacon payment request form, which again we have a screenshot of here. That one of these will be submitted with each claim. You can see on number 13 that there's a lot of criteria for what each payroll document needs to have, that it needs to be an original, real ink signed certified payroll. So it's good to have an awareness of what those standards are before getting into it. All right, so that's about the lay of the land for Davis-Bacon, and if you didn't already sense the theme, that if you have any questions, get in touch with Dina. She's the one who's going to be able to navigate through all the different regulations to see if it applies to your project or not. So with that section finished, we're going to go on to Section 3, Applicability and Requirements. Section 3 is a federal obligation that is tied to HUD funding. It states that recipients of HUD housing and community development funding must provide, to the greatest extent feasible, job training, employment, and contracting opportunities for low and very low income residents and Section 3 businesses using current CDBG income limits. Project sponsors who have been awarded contracts of $200,000 or more and contractors who have been awarded contracts of $100,000 or more are required to make an effort to meet HUD numerical goals, and their contracts must contain the HUD Section 3 goals. Low and very low income individuals should be given a preference for at least 30% of all new hires that arise from the HUD funding. At least 10% of the total construction dollar amount is to be contracted with other Section 3 businesses. At least 3% of the total non-construction dollar amount is to be contracted with other Section 3 businesses. And on that first bullet point, the term preference was the only thing I could find throughout everything I looked on the HUD website for, and I think that they use the term preference rather than eligibility. But I think it's just basically like a softer version of eligibility. That if someone's a Section 3 resident, then they are eligible. If someone is not a Section 3 resident, then they're not totally ineligible, but the preference is always going to be given to a Section 3 resident.
Dina, are there anything that you'd like to see to show that preference, that you know, when you're talking about a contract that you'd like to?
Well, it just means that since this is HUD funding, that you can work your bidding process so that if Section 3 business is bidding maybe a little bit more, then the preference would go to the Section 3 business or Section 3 new hires or the new hire situation. And that's why HUD uses the word preference, is because with the funding, the preference should go to the individual as a new employee or a contractor as a Section 3 business. And that's one of the benefits of being a Section 3 business.
Okay, and you can see we're also using the term Section 3 business. They're also called Section 3 business concerns. I have a couple later slides about that to clarify that. Since we are also using the term Section 3 resident, all public housing residents are de facto considered Section 3 residents, or if they are a person who is a low income or very low income person residing in the metropolitan area or a non-metropolitan county in which the Section 3 covered assistance is expended, then both of these populations are considered Section 3 residents. Section 3 business or business concern. Section 3 business concerns are businesses that can provide evidence that they meet one of the following criteria: 51% or more owned by Section 3 residents, or they are at least 30% of its permanent full-time employees include persons that are currently Section 3 residents, or within 3 years of the date of first employment with the business concern were Section 3 residents, or if the business provides evidence as required of a commitment to subcontract in excess of 25% of the dollar award of all subcontracts to be awarded to business concerns that meet the qualifications in the above two paragraphs. And again, that the term business concerns, in my head, I just think of it as, you know, just the word business, but I think they call it business concerns because it can include nonprofits that are not acting as a business, but just that they're an agency. They're considered a business concern. All right, registering a Section 3 business concern on the HUD website. Really, if you just do, I do have the link in the next slide, but even if you just do a Google search for Section 3 HUD, it'll take you directly to the HUD page for the Section 3 business registry. You can see in the blue rectangle from the slideshow there that that has the link to the Section 3 business registry. You can also scroll down and there's a button to click for registering your business now if you want to register your business as a Section 3 business concern. So the blue link at the top is the direct link, but like I said, it's easy to find if you just do the term Section 3 in HUD. Now the Section 3 business registry is a listing of firms that have self-certified that they meet one of the regulatory definitions of a Section 3 business, And that means that they're included in a searchable online database that can be used by agencies that receive HUD funds, developers, contractors, and others to facilitate the award of certain HUD-funded contracts by locating Section 3 businesses within their community. The database can also be used by Section 3 residents to identify businesses that may have HUD-funded employment opportunities. You can see how it says self-certified. It is important to note that Section 3 businesses are not entitled to receive contracts simply by being listed in HUD Section 3 Business Registry database. Dina was just telling me this morning that this is a pretty new feature that's a part of the HUD website. Eligible businesses may need to demonstrate that they are responsible and have the ability to perform successfully under the terms and conditions of the proposed contract. Section 3 requirements at 24 CFR 135 provides preference for contracts and subcontracts to these firms, but it is not a guarantee. Again, because this is all self-certification, if a project sponsor wants to work with one of the businesses that's listed on the registry, the business and the project sponsor will have to work together to get all of the documentation together to prove that that the business or nonprofit as a business concern meet all the criteria to be a HUD-approved business concern. So while the department maintains the business registry database, it has not verified the information submitted by the businesses and does not endorse the services they provide. Accordingly, it is recommended that users perform due diligence before awarding contracts to firms that have self-certified on this registry by ensuring that they meet the definition of a Section 3 business concern as defined by the department's regulations at 24 CFR 135.5. And those are just the ones that were on the first slide for Section 3, the 3 different criteria. And here is the link for the registry itself. Again, it's easy to find just with a browser search, but you can register your own business, or if you're looking for contractors that would be considered Section 3, you can find them on there. This is also where if you find a business on there that you are pretty darn sure does not meet the criteria, anyone can report that they think that this business should be taken off of the registry if they think that there's something hinky going on, essentially. All right, frequently asked questions about Section 3. How is low income determined? The term low income is used in the Section 3 regulation to include both low and very low income individuals. Local income levels can be obtained online. These are the same as the local home income limits, and I have the link there, but I also went ahead and took a screenshot of what the current limits are for Marion County, and this will be on the DMD YouTube channel afterwards. A lot of you are probably already familiar with these since you have to check income limits so often for other kinds of projects. Metropolitan area, in regards to Section 3 terminology, means a metropolitan statistical area as established by the Office of Management and Budget. New hire means a full-time employee for a new, permanent, temporary, or seasonal position that is created during the expenditure of Section 3 covered financial assistance. Is a nonprofit organization considered a business for the purposes of Section 3? We touched on this briefly before, but yes, a nonprofit organization must meet the criteria of a Section 3 business concern as defined in the 24 CFR Part 135.5 in order to receive Section 3 preference. But again, you know, nonprofits can register themselves on the Section 3 business registry on the HUD website. What was that, Dina?
And then send the supporting documentation to me.
Okay. Who is considered a recipient of Section 3 funding? A recipient is any entity which receives Section 3 covered assistance directly from HUD or from another recipient. It does not include contractors or any ultimate beneficiary under the HUD program to which Section 3 applies. How does Section 3 differ from the, in the office we call them the meaty-weedy minority business enterprise or women-owned business enterprise programs? There's also persons with disabilities business enterprise and veteran-owned business enterprise programs. Section 3 is both race and gender neutral. The preferences provided under this regulation are based on income level and location. The Section 3 regulations were designed to encourage recipients of HUD funding to direct new employment and contracting opportunities to low-income residents and the businesses that employ these persons within their community regardless of race or gender. All right, and that's...
You have some questions.
Do we have... Let's see, is it that one?
Click on
Oh, okay. Looks like we've got some questions. And Phil, thanks for your question. Does DMD still keep a database of local Section 3 businesses?
I do have a listing. It does need to be updated, and I do encourage our contractors and CDCs to register on HUD's website and then send me, like I said, any supporting documentation. But I do keep a listing of which ones that I currently have and Section 3 business that I can send out.
All right, and Susan has requested that I email the PowerPoint. It's on the, we'll have it on the Google Drive. That's on our main website link. It's in my email signature. So that'll be available for y'all to grab from there. And we have one more question. Could the list be uploaded online for download?
Yes.
Dina says yes. Yeah, the Section 3 list. All right. And I think that's, if no one else has any more questions, you have our contact information here. And we'll have the PowerPoint on the Google Drive in just a little while after this presentation, and eventually we'll have it uploaded to the DMD YouTube channel.
And the other thing as well is, of course, you know, as we mentioned, this does apply to home as well. We just have our CDBG information, but if you want to contact Katie or Lydia as well as it relates to home programs and work with Dina, you can contact them as well. And the list can be will be downloaded. We'll include it on the Google Drive in the Davis-Bacon PowerPoint section as well. So look for it in our webinars folder.
All right. I think that's about it. Thanks everyone for joining us.